Good evening. I'm getting a kind of a late start tonight. I was really thinking about what I wanted to talk about today. And I was out swimming in the ocean, thinking about what to talk about. And I started to have a story come to my mind. If you want to think of it as a spiritual revelation, if you want to think of it as the gods or the ancestors giving me some understanding, you are free to do so. But I definitely would like to tell you a story about, well, we'll just call it a story for now. And I would like for you to, just for a little while, let me take you on a journey with this story and allow this story to help you understand who you truly are. So, here's how the story goes. Eons ago, when the universe was much younger, there were multiple races of conscious beings that lived throughout the universe, of both spiritual and of physical natures. And there was a race of beings in this universe of ours who called themselves the Manu. And the Manu were beings of consciousness and awareness that became extremely powerful. And they became so powerful that they rose above all of the other conscious beings and races in the universe. So much so that they gained control, physical control over them. The Manu had the ability to transform themselves. They had the ability to change, to transport themselves to anywhere they wanted with the power of thought. The Manu had achieved the ability to manipulate time and space. They had achieved the ability to have mind control over other beings. And they got to a place where they were on the verge of transforming into something even beyond their infinite capacity. And in order to go through this transformation of infinity, of beyond infinity, the Manu had to let go of the last measure of physicality that they had. Now, the problem is that if they let go of this last measure of physicality, they would lose, or they were afraid that they were going to lose their power over the universe and their power over the other conscious beings in the universe. And there were two factions within the Manu who one faction believed that it was necessary for all of the beings of the universe and all of conscious awareness, and for the universe itself, who they saw as being a conscious being, they felt it was necessary to let go and make this transformation, that this was something that they needed to do and was part of their destiny to bring the rest of the universe up to the next level and to allow other beings to achieve their conscious awareness. There was another faction of the Manu who believed that it was their responsibility to hang on to their power so that they could control and influence the other beings so that the other beings would not become destructive. So they saw themselves as like the policemen of the universe. And this disagreement started out as a fairly benign disagreement until the push to transform became so strong that there had to be a choice made. Now, the thing is, they had to all go together. They couldn't some of them go and some stay behind. They had to all go together or all decide to stay. That they were connected. The Manu were all connected by the force of their minds. And so this created a spiritual and galactic war. And this war was so destructive that it almost destroyed everything. And it did, in fact, create such damage to the Manu themselves that when the war was finished, the Manu had lost all of their potential and all of their power. And the faction that won was the faction that believed that in order for the universe to evolve, the Manu had to go through this transformation. This was the faction that won the war. They wiped out the other faction that wanted to keep control. Unfortunately, the devastation of the war cost them all of their spiritual energy, and in fact, they were doomed. They were going to die. So they had two choices left, which was they could band together with all of their combined power and transform and go out of this physical universe into that realm of infinity that they originally wanted to go to. The other option was that they could have offspring and teach their offspring their ways and their power so that the offspring could take their place. So they spent eons, from our perspective, trillions of years, millions, billions of years in deep meditation about what to do about this. And they came to the conclusion that they were going to send their offspring. They were going to create offspring which would kill them, but the offspring would survive. And they would send their offspring to a nexus point. Now, there was a nexus point within the universe that was a nexus point where all of the other dimensions came together and focused its power into this nexus point. And so this was a place, eons ago that they would travel to gain power, to gain awareness, to gain knowledge. And it was a place of power, and only certain beings were allowed to go there. And so they were going to send their offspring to this nexus point, this place of power. But they decided that because the temptation to use their infinite powers to control the other beings of the universe was so great, this temptation was so great, they decided to not tell the offspring where they came from, what their true nature was. They set up energetic laws in this nexus point, this place of power, so that their offspring could only become aware of their true nature under certain circumstances. They put within them coded knowledge of power, that if they were able to unlock this coded knowledge within their spiritual essence, they would be able to awaken, they would be able to remember their history, they would be able to know who they were, and they would be able to rise to that position of power, and then they would be able to once again go through that transformation with the power of this nexus point guiding them and empowering them to have this ability. Now, this took millions of years for their descendants to come to gestate. It took millions of years. So they created their offspring, and the energy that it took to create destroyed them because they had limited amounts of energy in order to be able to create offspring, and they knew it would destroy them. So by the way, if you're just tuning in now to the live Q&A, wait until this is archived, go back and watch it from the beginning so you can understand what this story is about. Now, since it was taking millions of years for their offspring to gestate, and remember, once their offspring gestate and become alive and aware, they're not going to remember where they came from or who their ancestors were. It's going to be like waking up from a coma. They're not going to know anything. And while all of this is going on, the other conscious beings of the universe that used to be lorded over and controlled by the Manu, they started trying to hatch plans to prevent the descendants of the Manu from achieving their infinite power status. Because they knew once the Manu realized who they were, there was no way they would be able to stop them. So among all of these other conscious beings and entities in the universe, there were beings called the Nagas. And the Nagas were themselves very powerful and very wise, but they were of a much lower vibration than the Manu. And the Nagas sought to destroy the Manu as they were gestating. They sought to destroy them by infiltrating them. So they actually put like parts of their DNA into the Manu as they were gestating over millions of years. And they believed that by being able to do that and put that in their DNA, that then the Nagas would be able to control the Manu and perhaps even use them for their own purposes. The Nagas wanted to control the universe as well, and they were able to control the universe for millions of years. But as much as they tried to destroy the gestating Manu who were coming to awareness, they couldn't. The Nagas could not destroy them. They had, even in their gestation period, they had a power that the Nagas could not influence them or destroy them. They were able to put their DNA into them, and that was as far as they were able to go. So then they watched as the Manu started to come out of their gestation and started to evolve into higher and higher forms of awareness. And this frightened them considerably, because as the Manu gained in awareness, the Nagas began to lose power over the physical universe. And so what the Nagas decided they would do, because they're incredibly smart, they're very crafty, they would create a series of conspiracies and lies that would keep the Manu from becoming aware of their true power, of infinity. And so they started this conspiracy, these lies, and they started to create this web of lies on a covert level, very covertly, but extremely powerfully, because the Nagas also had powers of mind persuasion. And they would use their powers of mind persuasion to vibrate in the level of the Naga DNA that was within the Manu, to convince them that they were weak and that they were trapped and that they themselves were finite beings with limited power. And the focus of this lie, this conspiracy, was to continue to bombard the minds of the Manu with these lies, with these feelings, with these vibrations, to such an extent that the Manu would keep themselves trapped, ironically, in the place of the most power, which is this nexus point of power within the universe that the ancestors of the Manu used to come to in order to empower themselves. And so again, as I said, the Manu have within them, they have coded secrets of knowledge. They have coded knowledge coded within their spiritual essence, because that's the one place the Nagas cannot go. They cannot penetrate to the spiritual essence of the Manu. They can only manipulate their physical DNA. They cannot manipulate their spiritual essence. And as I said before, the ancestors of the Manu, who were once infinite beings that controlled the universe, they coded secrets of knowledge within the spirits of the Manu, so that the only way that they could become aware of the secret knowledge is if they followed certain protocols. If they deviated from those protocols, they were not able. The coded knowledge would not be unfolded within them. It would be like they would be able to find files, and then the files would become unpacked, and then they would be able to look through the files and learn and become aware. If they did not follow certain protocols, that knowledge did not become activated. And the ancestors of the Manu did this for a reason, because they did not want their descendants to make the same mistakes they had made. Because if they gave them carte blanche power, then they feared that their descendants would make the same mistakes that they did, and that they would seek to control and potentially destroy the universe. And they took the risk that they would let their descendants destroy themselves if necessary, if what that meant was that they would be prevented from becoming fully empowered. And so they set up protocols within them that the only way that they could tap into the hidden knowledge is if they guided themselves on their own, by their own free will, if they were able to make decisions based on the desire to become spiritually evolved and to become spiritually infinite. Because they knew that if they did that, they would then be able to use that knowledge in a way that would be beneficial for all awareness and the whole universe, and it would help them go to the ultimate goal, which was then to pass out of physical being and into that transformation where they become completely infinite, and they transcend all materiality and all of the other dimensions. And then instead of controlling all of the dimensions, they become one with all of the dimensions. So, that is my story for you. This is what came to me as I was out swimming in the ocean this afternoon. Because I was trying to find a way to explain to you and answer in one story all of the questions that you have about yourself, and why it is so important to let go of any victim mentality, why it is so important to understand that there is the most powerful way of achieving everything that you want has to be from a place of ignorance. And what I mean by that is the ignorance of your true nature. Because if you knew who you truly were, there is the real possibility you could destroy yourself with that knowledge. So that's the answer to why, if we've lived multiple lifetimes, why is it that we don't remember? Because encoded within you is secret knowledge to your true infinite identity. And that power within you is so powerful that if misused, you might very well destroy yourself or destroy the universe. When I was studying spirit fighting, that's what happened to me the first day. The first day that I went and I started doing the exercises, I felt this huge rush of energy come through my body to the point where it scared me. And then I felt something on my left side, a being on my left side, and it said, not in words, spoken words, but the feeling that came through me was, "You've been chosen to learn this. If you misuse it, it will be taken away from you. And as this message is coming to me, I had this vision of a nuclear bomb going off, which meant that was the level of power that I was being given. And so whoever it was that, whatever that guide was, apparently had the power to set up the scenario to take that power away from me. Now, what's interesting is I'm not interested in that kind of power anymore. So, and by letting go of that power, I've found different kinds of power that go beyond that, that aren't nearly as, not nearly as fancy or anything to brag about. So, I'm going to continue on this theme for a while because I believe that this story, if you choose to believe it, you can. If you don't want to, that's okay too. I believe that this story has within it a tremendous amount of power. And if you can internalize this, you will understand why you are your own worst enemy. It's built within you. So I talked about the Nagas, and I talked about how the greatest fear of the Nagas, who are currently in control of this physical reality, the greatest fear of the Nagas is that you become aware of your true essence as Manu. If I play around with the syllables of those two words, Naga, it would mean literally no go. So a Naga would be the energy of restriction that prevents movement, prevents evolution. Manu is the ancient word for human beings. That's why we get the word man from. It's been corrupted, and I would say this was part of the conspiracy of the Nagas to take away the power of language. But the Indo-European people, if you go back, regardless of where they come from, if you go back far enough in time, they will refer to themselves as Manu, which means mind. And we know what the mind is. The word for mind is the same word for human being. The word for mind is man. The word for human is man. The word for moon is man. What that means is that human beings have the ability to do what the moon does. What does the moon do? The moon reflects the sun. What is the sun? The sun is the most powerful energy source in our solar system. Without the sun, there is no life. There is nothing. And we would even say that everything on Earth, including all of the beings, are nothing but made up of stardust, made up of stars. So your internal essence is that of the sun. And what gives human beings infinite power is their ability to reflect the infinite power of the sun. No other being has that ability. Only humans. So this is why in all high powered spiritual practices, the core essence of it is some kind of meditation. Because without that ability, you cannot reflect the spirit. And if you don't reflect the spirit, you are nothing more than your physical flesh and your physical base desires, which is what the Nagas want. So within you, at the base of your brain, is the reptilian brainstem. Everything in your reptilian brainstem is here to do two things. One, on the physical level, it is here to help you procreate physically and protect yourself from danger. That's all it really is there to do. Our instincts of fight or flight comes from that. We have, besides fight or flight, there's also tend and befriend, which is interesting because, as you know, I work very hard to attack codependency, specifically people pleasing. I'm ruthless with people pleasers because people pleasers are as destructive as those who are trapped in the fight or flight. They're just doing it in a different way. There's also very self-destructive. So this is how the Nagas control us. And in that place of fear, which is where fear comes from, the reptilian brainstem. Now, it's necessary on a physical level, don't get me wrong. If you wipe out all fear, then nothing's going to stop you from walking in front of a bus. So we have to have some in order to stay physically alive. But what the Nagas do is use that fear to keep you feeling trapped. And there are all kinds of belief systems that are created out of this, which include religion. Any religion that tells you that you are sinful, that you are evil, that there is some higher being up there that is controlling you, this is the conspiracy of the Nagas. Jehovah is a conspiracy of the Nagas because Jehovah means I am that I am. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. You notice that in the 10 Commandments, there are 4 commandments about not worshiping other gods. Not one. He was so insecure, he had to put 4 in there, saying that you can't worship other gods. Because if you realize that you yourself are in fact the most powerful infinite being in the universe, then the Nagas will no longer have control. And they don't want that. Now, they built into this conspiracy and these lies something extremely powerful, which is to hypnotize you into believing that if you go beyond your physical limitations, that you will be destroyed. This is not something that you consciously believe. It is happening on an unconscious level. It's in your DNA. It's in your Naga DNA. To keep you from the awareness of knowing your infinite power. And the ultimate form of your infinite power is being able to simply intend reality, like my current favorite picture here. Okay, so I don't know how, who's come on when, but again, if you haven't, go back to the beginning when it's archived, watch it from the beginning, because the story that I'm telling you, if you listen to it, and if you allow yourself to believe it, if you allow it to sink in, it will have the ability to answer all of your questions, and it will have the ability to give you the power to take the action necessary to achieve your highest potential, which is an infinite being. Okay? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of a break here, and I'll come back and I'll take whatever questions you may have. So I'll be back in a couple minutes. So what I want you to understand is that it is normal and understandable for you to want to escape this earth. If you want to escape reincarnation and escape this earth, that is normal. But understand that that is a fear that has been programmed into you in order to prevent you from achieving your highest awareness. Now, the way that it's set up is that this was something that the ancestors of the Manu knew was going to happen. Because remember, again, the ancestors of the Manu put their descendants in a form of gestation, and did not and left them to become aware of themselves on their own. And the only way that they would become aware of their essence is if they followed certain protocols. Those certain protocols are what I would call following your soul desire and acting in fearlessness towards your soul desire. When you followed that protocol, these wisdom, this knowledge would become awakened within you. Like today, I was out there swimming in the ocean, and I do that a lot. And I talk to Mother Ocean, and I ask for her help. And as I did, this story started coming to me. These kinds of things will come to you when you become aware and when you follow certain protocols. And the way that it's set up is if when you don't follow those protocols, when you go opposite those protocols, and you follow fear or trying to gain power, which is, again, people who seek power are people who are afraid, who do not trust the universe, These are people that this coded knowledge does not become awakened within them. And they become susceptible to the hypnotism of the Naga. The reptilian brainstem within them becomes activated. So this is why when people come on my channel and they want to talk about the reptilian conspiracy, I don't tell them that they're wrong. I just tell them that if they're willing to follow my advice and do certain things, that the Nagas cannot touch you. They still can't. See, here's the thing. They can hypnotize you and do all kinds of other things, but they can never destroy you. They can never harm you. You're the one that's going to harm yourself. And this has been set up so that you will not be corrupted by the power that you already have, the infinite power within you. And so you will not be corrupted by that. I was reminded of the Gospel of Thomas again yesterday. And I don't know if you've ever read the Gospel of Thomas. As you know, I am not a Christian. I work very hard to debunk Christianity and to reveal what I believe to be the real source of Christianity and all of that. And I would say Christianity would be part of the Naga conspiracy. But if there was one gospel that I would read, it would be the Gospel of Thomas. And in fact, there is evidence, and I can't say whether or not I completely believe this to be true yet, but the evidence is pretty interesting that the Gospel of Thomas may have been the original gospel, but it was so revolutionary and so challenging and so difficult that when Christianity became a religion, in order to keep power, they took that Gospel of Thomas and then created a bunch of other ones based off of that. And as you know, in the biblical Gospels, Thomas is called Doubting Thomas, and he's looked upon with derision. And this, there are people who believe that this was a response to the original gospel, the Gospel of Thomas, and they wrote him into the other gospels in a certain way to make him look bad, so that the true teachings in that gospel would never take hold. And so, again, I'm not a Christian. I don't believe in the literal existence of Jesus. I don't believe there was a Jesus of Nazareth, and I've talked about that and all that kind of stuff. But if I were to give my sanction to a gospel, it would definitely be the Gospel of Thomas. The beginning of Gospel of Thomas, the first major saying, and it's just a gospel of sayings. It's not like the other gospels that are meant to be like a history, and Jesus went here, and then he did this, and then he did that, and he went to this time. It's not like that. It's just sayings. Supposedly sayings of this wise teacher, this revolutionary teacher, and they just wrote down sayings that he said. And the first one is, he says, he does. You know, you've heard, seek and you shall find, right? Knock and the door will be open unto you. And people say, that's prayer. You're supposed to pray and ask God and keep seeking. That's not the original verse. The original verse is, do not stop seeking until you find. When you find, you will become disturbed. When you are disturbed, you will marvel and reign over all. That saying has three essences to it. And who is it that operates in three essences also is Odin. Odin, Vili, and Ve. Within that sentence is dying to yourself, sacrificing yourself to yourself. That middle part. When you find, you will become disturbed. Means you'll go crazy. When you find the truth, you will go crazy. What is it that drives you crazy? What drives you crazy is that when you find out and connect to your true essence, then you will have a war within yourself between the part of you that seeks to become infinite and relinquish power, and the part of you that is connected to the Naga conspiracy that wants to hold on to the idea of power and keep you trapped. Because the whole idea of power is the same. If you want to rule the world, it's because you feel powerless. So the victim who says that this world is an evil place and that they can't function in it, and everybody's out to get them, and I hear this all the time. People contact me with this all the time. That is only one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is the person who seeks to rule the entire world and have complete political power or have all the money in the world. They're two sides of the same coin, and they come from the same fear. The fear that says that the universe will not provide you, that the life force energy in the universe will not provide you with what you need. Fearlessness says, even if you strip me down naked and put me in the middle of the desert, the universe will provide me with everything that I need. And it is that place of fearlessness where you tap into your true power, which is ultimately to be able to intend your reality instantly. Okay, so, all right. There's a movie in there somewhere. All right, so let me look at questions. Emerson Coffee Bike question: who are the Galactic Federation? I have no idea. And are star seeds a real thing? I have no idea. I used to believe I was a real star seed, but not so sure. Could it be a star seed can be mistaken for a shaman, etc.? Well, the assumption in that is that you're different from the rest of humanity. So if you're a star seed, then so is everybody else. This is, this is what I don't like about a lot of the New Age teachings, and this is why what I was saying yesterday about, why I don't like people who really promote themselves as channeling, higher beings or aliens, is because it creates this separation. And the person who's channeling is now somehow this, this very special person, and I'm less than them, and they, The truth is, the honest truth, let's be honest. If we analyze the teachings of people who channel, that's no different than any other wise person, except for the fact that they start talking about, other star systems and, starships, and then they start talking about what it's like to be on the starship and what this and that and the hybrid races. All that stuff is designed to get you out of where you are. And where are you? You are on planet Earth, and planet Earth is the most powerful nexus point in the universe. This was the whole point of the story. And part of the deception is to be told that you are on this tiny little rock called Earth, and what you really need to do is to travel out of Earth and travel out of human existence and become somewhere or something else. That's the deception. The most powerful place to be is right here, right now, in your physical body with all of your human emotions. That is the most powerful place for transformation in the universe. So, I don't know who the Galactic Federation are. I don't even know if they exist. I don't know what a starseed is. I don't know if it's real. I don't care. If you are a starseed from the Galactic Federation, right now you're in a physical body, a human physical body on Earth, which is the nexus point of all of the dimensions. It is the most powerful place to be. And the reason why human life is so challenging is because you are in a vortex, and all of the energies from all of the other dimensions are bombarding you. So it's only normal to want out of that. But understand, if you take yourself out of that, you're taking yourself out of the most powerful place in the universe. And it is as simple as changing your assumptions about who you are. Did you hear what I said? I didn't say change your feelings. I said change your assumptions. Your assumption, if you change your assumption from being, I'm a limited human being, blah, 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 whatever you believe, maybe you actually do believe you're trapped in the matrix. Maybe you do believe that you are a source of energy for false beings of light. And maybe you are. I don't know. Maybe you are. Do you want to change that? You're not going to change that by escaping. If you escape, it's like, herding sheep into, the slaughterhouse. You push them down little, alleyways until the guy with the bolt takes you out. If you are listening to me and you have a desire to escape this world and escape the matrix, if you have a desire to end your life because you can't stand it, you are being funneled down those passages. And if you want to believe it's done by beings of light, so be it. The way to change your assumption and to change that and get out of that maze is to change your assumption about who you are. And that has nothing to do with how you feel. You can feel sad, suicidal, crazy, you can angry, weak, miserable. You can have the worst feelings that are going through you. You don't have to change those. But if you change your assumption from being this limited, weak, trapped little being into I am the most powerful infinite being in the universe, and I am right now in the nexus point of all of the other dimensions, which is why it is so intense living here. And my job is to allow that intensity to create infinity within me. And I have a clear path which will take me to that infinity, which is to follow the soul desire within me, which in my soul desire is hidden, coded knowledge of power. And the only way that I can unlock that knowledge of power, that hidden, coded message within me, is to follow that joy and take action, regardless of how afraid I am. No matter how I feel, no matter how much you may want to jump off a cliff or blow your brains out or stick a needle in your neck or whatever your way is of trying to escape, or worshiping, going to church, or becoming a cult member, or giving your power away, or becoming a violent person, or becoming the savior of the world and saving everybody. Whatever it is that you do to escape is the way that you sabotage your ability to become that infinite being. Actually, you already are that infinite being, to awaken within you the knowledge and the power of that infinity. All right, let's move on. Again, what I would like to see is the questions. I'm not going to respond to anything other than questions. So, let's see. Question. Jedi Black Knight says, in Celestial Qigong, which can be found here, qigong.thunderwizard.com, this is a technique. This is a tool that will awaken within you that coded knowledge. It will also bring you tremendous power and healing into your body. Celestial Qigong, while doing the macrocosmic orbit after the heaven-earth breath, can we use the Hool sound during exhalation? Yes. You don't need to understand if you don't know what that means, any of that stuff, but you can go onto my channel and find the heaven-earth meditation, and you can also look for the Hool breath. Any one of those techniques are tools that will do what I'm explaining to you. It will unlock within you that coded knowledge and that awareness and give you the ability to fearlessly go after your soul desire regardless of any fears that may come up. Which again, those fears, and the deception is really quite ingenious. When you start walking down the path of your soul desire, your unconscious mind, which has within it that virus from the Nagas, the fear virus, it comes out in all kinds of different ways. It's not going to come at you and say, I want to stop you from becoming an infinite being. Because then you would go, well, screw that, I'm going to keep going. No, it's going to come at you in ways you can't even imagine. And it's going to make all the sense in the world. You have all these reasons why you can't keep taking action on what it is that you want. And so you have to be so committed to it that you continue to take fearless action regardless of what comes up. Because that is your life. That's the thing that will save you. If what you want is to be free, if you feel trapped and what you want is to be free, that is the only way out. Taking action on the joy in your heart. And if you don't know what that is, because many times I'll ask people, what is it that you want more than anything? A lot of people say, I don't know. You can go to career.thunderwizard.com and get a session from me, or you can go to michaelwilliamdenny.com and you can look for I think it's this one. I think it's The Secret Shamanic Commandment to a Perfect Life. I think that's the title. It's something like that. And I might have transposed a word here. There's that. All right. Emmanuel Chavez, chart ruler. So, you haven't asked me a question. The way I know you've asked a question is you say question. Also, I have no idea if you are talking about Vedic or Western astrology. If it's Western astrology, then it's going to be totally different, and I am not a Western astrologer. For that, you can go to my friend's website, or I think this is it, Black Earth Productions.com. Let's see, is that how it's spelled? You can go, if you want Western astrology, you can go to blackearthproductions.com. If you want Vedic astrology, go to astrology.thunderwizard.com. I'm not going to do charts here tonight. That's not what I'm here to do. If you want me to look at your chart, go there. Okay, Steve Travesty, question. Is that your last name, Travesty? If it's not your last name, I would change that. Change that to something else. Because you don't want to vibrate something you don't want to be. A travesty is a bad thing. Right? What a travesty. Anyway, I don't know if that's your real name or not, but if you can, I would, if that's not your name, I would change that to something else. Okay, Steve Travesty, question. What are the ways we can identify when someone is trying to manipulate the reptilian brain? Well, there's an assumption in that question, which is somebody else is manipulating it. Actually, the assumption in that question isn't that somebody else is manipulating it. The assumption in that question is that even if somebody is manipulating it, that you don't have the power to overcome them. So why do you want to identify? Just assume that there are all kinds of things going on that are trying to manipulate your reptilian brain. Just accept that. Knowing how and why and who isn't going to give you the power to stop that. What you're really asking me, because whenever people, when we ask questions like why and how, what we're really doing is we're seeking control. Like, why did she die? You're trying to bring her back. I know, because I've asked that question quite a lot. And that's where it's coming from. It's like, if you tell me why, then I'll be able to figure out how to resurrect her and bring her back into my life. So why and how means that you feel out of control. And you think if I tell you how to figure it out, that you'll be able to control and protect yourself. And you won't. Just accept the idea that there are forces that are trying to manipulate you and to hypnotize you and all that kind of stuff. What you really want to know is, how can you not be affected by that? Now, you ask the second part of here, which is even more disturbing to me. You say, how do we help those under its control? There's another assumption that you have power to help other people out of their problems, and you don't. The underlying assumption that I want you to accept here is that, remember, the Manu are given free will. And so of their own free will, they have to choose to follow the path of fearlessness without knowing who they are. And all the while, they have to be able to choose that while being influenced by their Naga brains. This was all set up in advance so that you would, from an honest free will perspective, find your true power in the way that will bring you the greatest happiness and joy and make you the most powerful and healing force in the universe. It's been set up this way for that very reason. So your question really, Steve, is not what are the ways that we can identify when someone is trying to manipulate the reptilian brain. What you really want to know is, how do we avoid being manipulated? Because why worry about how it's done? There's infinite ways. The way to avoid it is exactly what I just got through saying. Listen to your soul. Find that thing in your soul that gives you the greatest joy. What is it that, again, remember how it works. If you don't know what you want, and quite often I don't, I have to keep asking myself that question. So what you do is, you say to yourself, okay, imagine that you live in a fantasy world. It's not a real world, it's a fantasy world. You don't have to do anything about it. It doesn't have to mean anything. It's totally, nonsensical, and it's irrational, and it's impossible. But we're going to play fantasy right now. So we're going to go into our fantasy world. And in our fantasy world, we don't have to worry about money, and we don't have to do anything for anybody else. We're only required to do one thing in our fantasy world, which is we have to do the one thing that gives us the greatest joy, regardless of how silly, wrong, bad, sinful, or ridiculous it is. Under those conditions, what do you want to do? Whatever comes to your mind is your soul desire. Now you have to go do it. I don't care if you don't have the money, you don't have the time, you don't have the resources, you don't have the whatever it is you don't have. Too bad. That's what you're required to do. That is the coded knowledge within you. That if you go do that thing, that coded knowledge will unravel itself, and you will become aware of your infinity. As long as you are doing that, nothing can manipulate you, nothing can harm you. And the universe has to bow down to you and give you all of the physical resources you need to accomplish it. So there's the answer to your question. The question isn't how to avoid being manipulated. The question is how to do it. Now, the next part of your question, how do we help those under its control? The same way. You stop worrying about other people. They have their own free will, and they have access to the same infinity that you do, but it has to come from them. They have to, in their own life challenges, have to come to the same conclusion and say to themselves, you know what, I'm tired of being afraid, I'm going to go after what makes me happy, and then all of a sudden that whole thing happens, and then they are free. They can't be harmed or controlled by anybody else. Now, the fact that you are asking me how to help somebody else tells me that you are in a form of insanity, which, on number one, you think they don't have the power to help themselves, and you don't think the universe has the power to help them, and two, you think somehow you're more powerful than they are. You're going to go help them. You both have the same amount of free will, and it's insanity for you to think that you can go do that. It's more than that. It's worse than that. It's that you want to control them. Why would you want to control somebody else? By helping them out of their own challenge that they need. Here's something you need to understand, everybody listening to me. The pressure cooker of life, again, we live in the nexus point of all of the dimensions, and all of the power of all of the dimensions is bombarding us, which makes this a very intense place to live. But it's the only place where we will be forced to face our infinity from our honesty and our free will. We can't do it anyplace else. This is the only place we can do it. So if you truly want to achieve your limitless freedom, don't escape this place. Be here and transcend it. That's your only choice. So why in the world would you want to take away from somebody else the intensity of them being bombarded by all that intensity, which, if they allow themselves to face that on their own, they will come to that conclusion on their own. And it may take multiple lifetimes. They may not get it in this lifetime. That's not your problem. The fact that you want to help them is your own way of trying to get out of your difficulty. Remember, everything is a projection. So whenever you feel like you want to go save somebody else, what's really happening is you want somebody to come and save you. And nobody can save you but you. Okay? All right, let's keep going. Be happy. Question. Do you believe that none of us can evolve until we all evolve? No. I don't believe that at all. If that were the case, there wouldn't be things like ascended masters and elves and gods and goddesses. There obviously people evolve at their own pace, and you can phase out of this existence and become infinite, and the rest of us won't necessarily be on your level. So no, I don't believe that. In fact, I believe quite the opposite. I believe it's your responsibility to evolve yourself and not worry about how fast other people evolve. Timothy Flanagan, where do you get your tapestries? eBay. It's a really cool one on the other wall. You can't see it, but that one's really cool. You just go on eBay and type in, tapestry or wall hanging, and you'll see all of these will come up. Dharma Child question. Can you speak further / break down the Gospel of Thomas saying based off of your interpretive analysis? It feels very important and integral to this understanding. Yeah. This one saying says, do not stop seeking. Should I write it down for you? Do not stop seeking until you find. When you find, you will become disturbed. When you are disturbed, you will marvel and reign over all. Do not stop seeking until you find. What have I been saying? Continue to take action on your soul desire regardless of how you feel. Do not stop seeking until you find. When you find out what it is you really want and are taking action, or you could even say when you get what you want, when you achieve what you're working towards, you will become disturbed. It will scare the crap out of you. You will be disturbed at your own power. And you will become disturbed at the idea of dying to who you thought you were. Because in order to stay the limited, frightened person, you have to have that identity. Whoever that is, and whoever she is or he is, and whatever he or she does in that identity, you're going to have to drop all of that. You're going to have to die to that. You're going to, as Odin did, sacrifice yourself, small self, to your big self. Sacrifice yourself to yourself. And in that myth, Odin, as he's sacrificing himself to himself, the runes were revealed to him. The runes, it means that the runes were already there. He just didn't have the ability to see it until he sacrificed himself to himself on the tree of life, which is the spinal column. It's also the tree of death. I've been in the presence of the tree of life, and I can tell you it is also the tree of death. If you go into that tree, you aren't coming out. I could go on about what happened and what I saw, but if you get to the core of your essence, you're going to die. And you can interpret that word however you want to interpret it. Do not stop seeking until you find. When you find, it doesn't say that if you find. It says that if you continue to seek, do not stop seeking, no matter what. No matter how afraid you are, no matter how much resistance you have, if you continue to seek without stopping, you will find. Now, bear in mind when this was written. Let's go back. We had people who were living in the Roman Empire, and this is supposedly written by people who are occupied peoples. These are peoples who are being occupied by the Roman army. So that means they feel trapped, and they feel, their world is gone. Because now the world that used to be infinite is now very finite, and it's controlled by these archons called the Romans. And there are these Roman soldiers walking around who will stab you to fucking death if you step out of line. And people are being enslaved right and left. And you are seeing people being whipped. You are seeing people being publicly flogged and executed. You probably know people who have been enslaved and or been put into prison and or executed. You live in a desert, and you're probably being told that you got to go out into the fields and farm some, dry piece of desert and try and get it to give you grain when it doesn't want to. Those people wanted out bad. So remember what he's saying. The assumption in that is that you're seeking the kingdom. They have this idea of the kingdom of God. Understand that the kingdom of God to them was a new kingdom that was going to come. The Messiah was going to come with his armies and create a new kingdom which was going to overthrow the Romans. So they were seeking that kingdom. When they came to believe that that kingdom was not physical but spiritual, which meant they gave up hope of ever having the life that they wanted to have in the physical body. That's where Gnosticism came from. It came from a desire to escape the pain of their physical existence. And so then they created this idea that spiritual is better and physical is worse. That's what Gnosticism is based on. It's based on fear, and it's based on a desire to escape, which is why I'm not saying Gnosticism is a wisdom religion. It's not. It's a fear-based religion which created modern Christianity. If it weren't for Gnosticism, there wouldn't be the Christianity that we have today, because it's based off of Gnosticism, the desire to escape physical reality. Now, put yourself in that position. The kingdom of God is something that they want so bad, they can't even stand it. And that's why it was so ripe for spiritual teachers, because just like now, except now you have people who claim to be channeling this and doing that. I just found another guy today. Somebody sent me an email from some guy who thinks he's Jesus. And he's got this cult of people following him. How does he know he's Jesus? Because he remembers being Jesus. That's how he knows he's Jesus. He remembers it. And everybody follows him, and he has the word of God and all that. People are so desperate. But back then, people were even more desperate than we are on a physical level. And so the kingdom of God meant absolutely everything, and people would have died for that knowledge. They had nothing left to lose. And in comes this guy who says the kingdom of God. He says, do not stop seeking the kingdom of God until you find it. When you find it, not if, but when you find it, you will get fucked up. This will fuck you up. When it fucks you up, then you will marvel. And then you will have control over everything. Isn't that what I've been saying this whole time? That if you follow what I'm telling you to do, you're going to get to a place where you can intend your reality. You'll reign over all. All right, that's my answer to your question about what that one verse of the Gospel of Thomas was. Ask me tomorrow, I'll have a different understanding. Pharmacon 84. Again, do you really want that name? Is that what you want to project? Pharmacology? Question. When starting your trance state, is it normal to have fleeting raw images that are inconsistent, or you mean intranslatable? Is there a manner in which to focus yourself in that stage? It's called practice. Since we're using that, I don't know if pharmacon means that you use teacher plants or hallucinogens. I strongly recommend that you don't do that. Because hallucinogens and teacher plants, any outside chemical influencing your state of mind is going to, at some point, take you to your lower self, where you will have visions that are based off of your own narcissism, your own fears, or your own narcissism, and you will be trapped there. So if what you want is to have a shamanic trance state to be able to, I don't know what it is you want. I mean, why are you doing it? That's the other thing. Again, remember what I've been saying. Living on planet Earth is the most powerful place you can be. In a conscious state of awareness on planet Earth, You are being bombarded by all of the other dimensions of the universe. This is the most powerful place to be right now. You know, going off and escaping through shamanic trance is no different than trying to commit suicide or blah, 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 if your desire is to escape. I have nothing against shamanic trances. I've had many of them. But understand that the whole point of shamanic trance is that you are being given information that the rest of the world needs for their evolution. It's not meant for entertainment. It's not. It's, you know, having going on shamanic journeys for entertainment value means nothing. So I don't know why you're doing it. Do you have an intention when you go on a journey? And is that information that you really need? I'm not going to mention his name, but there's a person in the pagan heathen community that's really, that claims to be a shaman, and they've got books written on all the visions that this person has had, and I read it, and I'm just reading through somebody's unconscious narcissistic nonsense, because there's nothing in any of those visions that I can take out of it and apply it and make my life better. That's the whole point of going on shamanic journeys. But the whole point of that is so that you can take that information and use it in this life now. I've gone on shamanic journeys, and when I have, it's because there's something that I need to know. Like the Hool breath, which is the staple practice that everybody can do. Go onto my channel and do it. If you do that one practice for the rest of your life, especially if you really put time and effort into it, like do it for an hour a day for the rest of your life, it will give you everything that you need. That came from a shamanic journey. But that shamanic journey, I was taken because I was having a lot of energy problems and I was in a lot of pain and I needed help. And nobody could help me. So I just went into a journey and I asked and I received that. So are you taking journeys for that reason, or are you doing it because it's fun? Are you doing it to escape? Why are you doing it? Again, I don't know you, so I have no idea what your reasons for that are. But to answer your question without any of the other judgment or anything else, the way to gain control over your shamanic journeys is through discipline, just like anything else. The way to learn how to surf, the way to learn how to play tennis, the way to learn how to skateboard, you just got to keep doing it every day until you figure it out. Emerson's Coffee by question. How can we use the thunder wheel in relation to this topic? I would recommend doing the elf ritual on my channel. The elf ritual is a very good place to get started. To answer your question, there's infinite ways to use the thunder wheel, because the thunder wheel creates in you a symbolic reference point for exactly what I'm saying. You're in Midgard, in the middle of the other 8 dimensions that are bombarding you. And so you have to bring that into balance. And so depending, if you use it in your, if you get a astrology reading from me or from one of my apprentices, you're going to be given a mantra with a ritual, and it'll tell you which direction to face, which will tell you what planet and what energies. And the point of it is to first balance yourself. At the higher levels, once you've done that, you can use the thunder wheel to do magic, which is to do a ritual to try and change reality. But again, I don't recommend doing that unless you know exactly what you're doing and why. The other way to use the thunder wheel in this way is with the rune wheel. And when you get a rune reading from me, let's see, does that come up? runereadings.thunderwizard.com. If you go there, you can get a 9-world rune reading from me, and where the runes are placed in which of the worlds tells me what's happening on the 9-fold level of your personality. Human beings are made up of 9 different levels of being, which correspond with the 9 worlds. And when I do a rune reading, a 9-world rune reading, where the runes are and which runes are placed where tells me all kinds of things about what's happening with you, what you need, and how to balance yourself. And by the way, while I'm on the subject, I am creating, as we speak right now, I'm creating a certification program for the 9-world rune readings. So if you want to be put on the list for that, you can email me at info@thundershamanism.com and put in the title rune certification. Okay, put that in the title heading, and then I'll know to put it into a special file, and then you'll be the first to know when I'm ready to roll that out, which will be pretty soon. I'm almost done. All right, let's see here. Emerson's Coffee Bite continues. Are there any potential effects of memorizing the thunder wheel, such as activating each rune in our spirit bodies? What? Are there any potential effects of memorizing the thunder wheel? Well, that you've got 2 questions in there. The first one is, what are the effects of memorizing the thunder wheel? There's all kinds of things connected to that. You know, I recommend that people always know where the directions are. Always know where north, south, east, west is, because on an unconscious level, you want to create that compass so that you can know, how to relate to the energies. And sometimes you can feel where the energies are coming from. Like for me right now, it's coming from, where is that? That's northeast. So I'm getting a lot of energy from Asgard right now, which are the celestial beings. So that's why it's so intense. It's got that intensity, the intensity of Asgard. And you can also feel Helheim. A lot of energy coming from Helheim. Actually, energy trying to sort of go into Helheim. Anyway, so that's one way. The other way is if you were to memorize the rune wheel, then you'd be able to know what runes are connected with whatever realm is affecting you in each moment. You can also know when you do a 9-world rune reading, and let's say the rune that normally sits in the east is now in the west, then you get an idea of what kind of energies are moving in different realms. And so memorizing that stuff, the effects of that is that it gives you a greater understanding of how to work with the energies that are coming at you right now. It's a basic thing. This is at thunderwizard.com, which is, where is it? Thunderwizard.com is where you learn all of this stuff. By the way, I don't know what devices people are using to watch the videos on the Thunder Wizard channel, but some of them aren't getting watched. Makes me wonder. There's a lot of videos still on the free thunderwizard.com YouTube channel that aren't getting watched either. And I'm telling you that there are secret teachings on there that I'm not allowed to be giving out to the public, that I have just put right out there hiding in plain sight. And for those that want the kind of power that I'm talking about, if you find whichever ones those are, and I'm not going to tell you which ones they are, and you start practicing them, then you'll feel it. And that's meant for those who are meant to find it. So that's, again, for people who want to complain about not wanting to pay for this or not wanting to do that, it's all there. If you're willing to put the time and effort and to listen, it's all there, right in front of you. This is something that I learned a long time ago. I was frustrated with my teacher, and I wanted to train with the Grand Master. I wasn't able to do that for all kinds of, inter-political rival stuff and within the sect. And I was very upset about this. And I tried doing all kinds of things that didn't work. And I thought I was never going to learn past what I had. And, the universe gave me I believe it was one of the ancestors gave me an understanding that said, don't you see that this information is right in front of you? If you're willing to open your eyes, you can learn the highest teachings without having to go to anybody else. And as it so happened, that's being kicked out of that sect put me in a position of having to go directly to the universe. And a lot of the things that I teach, which are things that my teachers didn't know how to do, they very powerful guys. They're more powerful than I am in a lot of ways, but in a lot of ways, they're very limited. There are things that they can't do. It came from being taken out of that limitation. So, anyway, what else? All right, sorry, I'm having to scroll through to find the questions here. You ask Emerson's coffee bike activating each rune in our spirit bodies. Well, there's an assumption there that you need to activate them in your spirit body. Maybe you're right. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I guess I would defer to you and see what you think about that. I mean, is that a teaching that wants to come through to you? That's never occurred to me. Because I see the runes as being infinite, the cobblestones of the universe. So I don't think of it in terms of that, but maybe there's something I'm missing, which is perfectly fine with me. One of the reasons I created this path is to give you guys the tools, and then, it is my hope that when I'm no longer on this planet, that this teaching will continue and that there will be people teaching it and expanding it. Because this is, I'm the founder of it. And so there are some things that I have, some deep knowledge and awareness about. But it's just like writing, a person who writes a script or a book, it came through them, but the truth is that they don't know what they've written. And scholars come afterwards to read it and can understand it far more deeply than the person who wrote it. The guy's dead now. What is his name? Forget his name. Playwright. Sam Shepard. I think he's dead. Maybe he's not. Sam Shepard, if you don't know who he is, look him up. He was talking somewhere at I think a university or something, and somebody asked him, what was the symbolism behind this character and this play? And he says, I don't know from symbolism, I just wrote a play. Writers don't know what they're writing. They're channeling something, but they don't know it. So I'm fully of the belief that, if you guys take these tools and practice them, and I've seen it, you're going to understand it far better than I will. I'm just the vehicle through which it came. You're the intended targets of it, not me. Okay, so let's see. Let's keep going here. Higher truth question: when people die, should they go into the light? So higher 7 Ruth, which is supposed to be like higher truth. You're new to the channel, yes? Of course you should go into the light. What I just got through saying, if you came on late, go back and watch this after it's been archived. Watch it from the beginning and listen to the story that I tell. Because in that story, if you can internalize that story, in that story, it'll tell you everything you need to know to keep on the path to becoming infinite. But in that story, I talk about that the greatest conspiracy and the greatest lie is the lie that you are trapped here on earth. That is a lie. The lie that there are beings of light who deceive you. That is a lie. That is a lie designed to keep you from achieving your infinity. So absolutely you should go into the light. You know why? Because the light is you. How pathetic is it to believe that there's some being out there that can bullshit you with false light and trap you with it? That is so pathetic. That you're that weak. That a person can be that weak and that easily duped. That's a lie. When a lie is that poorly constructed, and it is, it's such a poorly constructed lie. You know, that's the kind of lies that politicians create in order to obfuscate the truth. You know, they come up with such double speak. And people buy it. That's the worst part. People buy the bullshit that they're handed. And it frustrates me and annoys me because, you know, the truth is that you know better. You all know better. You choose to believe the bullshit because you're too afraid to step out into your true power. And you'd much rather be a victim. You'd much rather be trapped. You'd much rather be a prisoner. You know, like people who go to prison and they spend years and years in prison and they get used to having 3 hots and a cot. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to do anything. They just sit there and they got a free gym to go to and they can watch TV in the rec room and then they go and sleep on their cot and then, you know, they get fed. These people, when they come out of prison, they don't know how to function and so they commit crimes so that they can go back in prison. Why? Because they can't take care of themselves. They want somebody else to take care of them for them. And that is called being a prisoner. To believe that that there are beings outside of you that have this power is the same as that prisoner wanting to stay a prisoner. You pretend to complain about it. You pretend to want to know. Let me give you another example. You know, people who say that the exit to the matrix is at the North Pole. I can tell you that if I believed that I was trapped in the matrix, and if I believed that the exit to the matrix was on the physical North Pole, I would fucking get my ass to the physical North Pole. There would be nothing that would be stopping me. So the people who are complaining and will go on and on about how the North Pole has the exit to the matrix, and yet they're still sitting at home on their cell phone, driving their car, going to work, eating food, watching television, watching YouTube. They don't fucking believe that the exit to the matrix is at the North Pole because they wouldn't be sitting at home watching YouTube and talking about it. They are so full of shit. Or, worse than that, they like being trapped. Of course you should go into the light. The fuck are you so afraid of? Anyway, I don't know you. Maybe you're not afraid. But yes, of course you should go into the light. Samantha, what are your thoughts on psychedelics and their purpose on this earth? Hi, Samantha. You're new to the channel? Yes? Welcome to the channel. I have a whole at least 3 hours about psychedelics and what I think they are and what they do. And for that, go on to my channel and search for, I think, something about marijuana. You know, something, marijuana's in the title. It's got a picture of an Agori guy, and he's smoking some ganja. That brings me to the topic of, let me ask everybody, do you know how to search within somebody's channel, somebody's YouTube channel? Do you know the difference between searching YouTube, generally speaking, and searching within somebody's YouTube channel? you need to learn how to search within somebody's channel if you want to get the most out of my channel. And by the way, 99% of the questions that come on here are answered in videos that I've already put up there. So that is the reason why I'm saying that, is that you're asking a very good question. It's a very long answer, and I don't want to put the time into it now because we're talking about another subject, but I would like for you to go watch that video. So go onto my channel and look for the one about marijuana. I forget what it's called. Okay, Pharmacon 84 he's talking about Greek philosophy. All right, then I can respect that, because I was asking him why he used that name. Varg's Twirl Wizard question, and then there's nothing after that. Oh, there it is. Question: do you know of any rituals? Of course I do. I teach all kinds of rituals. I just gave one. I just gave the elf ritual. I know tons of rituals. If you want to know, that you can go onto my channel and search ritual. And if you really want to learn a lot of shamanic rituals, go to thunderwizard.com. I mean, I've already got it written up here. No, not right now, but go there. Start from the beginning. Do you want to learn shamanism from the beginning? Do you want to learn shamanic ritual from the very beginning? What the 9 worlds are, the entities, the energies of the 9 worlds. Again, we live on Earth, which is the epicenter of all of the other dimensions. All of the other dimensions are pouring their energy into this specific place, which we know of as planet Earth. And I've got all kinds of rituals about that. So go to thunderwizard.com if you want to learn that. You can also search my channel for it. The elf ritual is one. What do you mean you can't find the Hool breath? Oh my God, you guys, all you have to do is type it in. The Hool breath, there is no other Hool breath than mine. See, it tries to say Hull breath. Don't do the Hull breath, do the Hool breath. You can just go onto YouTube and type Hool breath. So what the fuck do you mean you can't find it? Very frustrating, you guys. Be happy. Question: I struggle to get through the day from physical and emotional challenges. Well, I'm sorry, that sounds difficult, and I feel for you. Will the 9 rune reading help with these? I don't know. I don't need something so spiritual that it doesn't help the physical. So I don't know what you need. Be happy. You know, what I can tell in your question is that you want to find one magic pill that's going to fix it all. And whatever your physical and emotional challenges are, and I don't know what they are. I myself have had physical and emotional challenges, but I don't know what yours are, and I'm sure they're very real. The only way to get through it is probably with repeated and disciplined action. Maybe with a ritual, maybe with a mantra, maybe with I don't know what. But the way that I hear the question coming from you, you're looking for one thing that's going to fix it, and you don't want to spend a whole lot of money on a bunch of stuff or do a bunch of different things. And so you're thinking about the 9 rune reading, and you're saying, you know, I don't know if I want to get. If you're really serious about overcoming these physical and emotional challenges, you should be doing absolutely everything you can get your hands on. And if you think I have something of value for you, then you should be trying everything you can get your hands on from me. Not kind of trying to nitpick over one little thing. Should I try? Well, if I do that one thing, is that going to fix me? I don't fucking know. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, but it all depends on what you do with it. So, you know, you want me to tell you, yes, it will definitely, I don't know. But I definitely want to encourage you to, as we started off, you know, with the Gospel of Thomas, Do not stop seeking until you find. When you find, you will be disturbed. So you obviously have some stuff you need to let go of. My book, The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life, if you do that, really do that with everything you have, you may be able to be free of those things. If you do the wheel breath, if you get a rune reading from me and follow that and follow my directions, you might be able to overcome that. But more than likely, you're probably going to have to do something over and over and over again. And you don't seem, based on your question, you don't seem willing to really discipline yourself in a bunch of different things. So I don't know. If you think that you're worth it, and if you think that I have something to offer you, then get one. I don't need something so spiritual that it doesn't help the physical. Well, again, telling me what won't work for you. You're already telling me that I'm skeptical about this and I don't want to do anything that doesn't work. You're already setting yourself up for failure. You're already setting yourself up so that when I do give you the reading, if you wanted to, you could say, yeah, but that was an icon, and that is, and then you're giving yourself excuses not to take action. I can hear it in your question. The way that the old school teachers used to be is that you used to come to them, like remember the Kung Fu series? I don't know if you remember that, but you can go watch it on YouTube, the beginning of Kung Fu. The Shaolin Temple is sitting there, and all these kids who, either they're orphans or their parents want them to become a Shaolin monk or something like that, they put them and seat them in front of the temple, and they have to sit there all day. And the ones that are running around playing, the monk will come out and say, please go home. The ones that don't have the discipline to sit in one place, all day for, days at a time, they get sent home. And at the end, there's only 3 kids left, I think, who have the ability to just sit there in the rain, little kids. They have the discipline. Those are the ones they take in. Because those kids are willing to do whatever the hell it takes to get into that temple. If you're willing to do whatever the hell it takes to be free of this, then you can, and it doesn't matter if you learn it from me or somebody else. But if you're not willing to do absolutely anything, you absolutely have to, then it doesn't matter who you go to or what technique or what ritual, it won't make a difference. You have an assumption at the end of your question. I don't need something so spiritual that it doesn't help the physical. Well, you're telling me, you're coming to me as a teacher and you're telling me what's going to work and what's not going to work. You're already telling me that you know more than I do, in which case, why are you coming to me? Because the truth is that every problem that we have, physical or emotional or otherwise, is rooted in the spiritual. All of your problems come from a spiritual imbalance. So by excluding that, now you've told me that I can't give you the spiritual answer to your problem. Not that I know what that would be. Maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't. You already just got through telling me that you won't accept that answer from me. Now, all days you go to the teacher and you would say, here's what's going on with me. Teacher, what should I do? And then the teacher would tell you what to do, and you had to go do it. You want to learn Kung Fu from, I'm not talking about the Kung Fu that is in the Kung Fu studios that's been watered down 7, 8, 10, 12 times. You want to go to China and find a village Kung Fu master. A village Kung Fu master is somebody who keeps his spiritual practices and his martial arts practices secret from the rest of the world because he doesn't want the guy in the village next to him to learn so that they'll come over and kick his ass. Or they don't want the government to know because they don't want the government soldiers to come in and kick their ass. So they have these secret rituals, and they got some really powerful magic over there. Some of the most powerful magic that you have ever seen will be places in China you'll never see, that will never see the light of day. And they'll never get to this country. You want to go learn from those guys, you don't show up and tell them what you want to learn. Let me tell you a story about one of those kinds of things. This is from a friend of mine who, was telling about a traditional Kung Fu teacher, and He was in the West, which meant if you're a teacher in the West, you have to please people and you have to give them what they want, because Westerners treat teachers like we are commodities to be ordered around. I get that a lot. People say, I want to know exactly what I'm going to get from Celestial Qigong. They think I'm a commodity. I want you to teach me this. I'm paying you for this. You have to teach me this. So this guy came to, he was a Kung Fu student, and he said to the teacher, he said, I don't want to learn that set. I want to learn the secret set. I want to learn a secret set that nobody else knows. And the teacher said, okay. And what he taught him was a bunch of opening salutes. Right? When you see the guy do this kind of thing in the beginning of that's a salute. But there might be this kind of a thing, So he gave him a bunch of different salutes and put them all into one set. And said, this is the secret thing, blah, nobody else knows this. And then they went to a Kung Fu competition, which again, at a competition, you're not going to see the real thing either. Nobody's ever going to do the real stuff in a competition because they're not going to show, their potential rivals the secret stuff that they know. So anyways, they go to this Kung Fu competition, and this guy goes up and he starts doing his magical set, which is all of the opening salutes, and everybody in the audience is looking at each other like, what the hell is that? What is that? And somebody says to him, did you teach him that? And the teacher said, yeah, I taught him that. I'm not one of those teachers. But real teachers are like that. If you come to them with this kind of attitude and you start telling them what you need and what you want and what you don't want and what this and what that, they will teach you bullshit because they know that you won't learn it anyway. If you come with an attitude and with what you don't want to learn and what you do want to learn and what you're willing and what works and what doesn't, meaning you're going to tell the teacher that you know more than he or she does, then they will give you garbage. Because they know that you wouldn't know what to do with the real thing if it was given to you anyway. And what's underneath that is that people who are, and I'm not saying this with any judgment because I've lived through it, but people who are victims out of choice. You have chosen to be a victim. You have chosen to buy into whatever Naga hypnotic suggestion that is floating around out there, because they're all designed to keep you trapped and keep you limited and keep you weak and keep you a prisoner. But like that guy who doesn't know how to function if you take him out of the prison because he doesn't know how to do anything for himself. People who are victims choose to be that, and when you give them the key, they won't use it. Because they unconsciously would rather be a victim and would rather be a prisoner than actually do the work and go through the pain and the toil and losing of yourself and dying to yourself, being disturbed, as it says in the Gospel of Thomas. Keep on seeking until you find. When you find, you shall become disturbed. They don't want to become disturbed, and who does? Who wants to go through pain? The only way that you're willing to go through pain is the desire to have what's on the other side of that pain is far greater than whatever the pain is to get there. And you have to have that. I'll give you another example from one of my teachers. This was an acting teacher. And I was there when he did it. Now, he wouldn't be able to get away with that today. There was, I can't remember what was happening. It was an acting class. And anyway, I think he was asking her, what is your motivation? What is it that your character wants? And then they got into a discussion because, for whatever reason, she wasn't connecting to the desire of the character or something like that. And so she said, well, how do I know how much she wants to do this? Because he was saying, she wants this with all of her life. You've got to put your whole life behind every one of your acting choices. And she says, well, how do I know how much what does that mean? So he got up And he was a big man. He was tall. He was like 6'5" or something. And this was a, college girl. And he said to everybody, he said, none of you get out of your seat no matter what happens. We're like, holy shit. And he got behind her and he put his hand over her nose and her mouth until she couldn't breathe. And then she started to struggle. And she really started to struggle. And then she started squirming for her life. And at that point, he let go. And she went, and he said, your character wants whatever the hell it was, as much as you wanted to take a breath right then. And I'm here to tell you that if you don't have that, it won't matter what I give to you. I can give you the ultimate exercise that will free you and give you infinite power. And I've already done it. As I said, I've already put it on the free YouTube channel for free. But if you're not desperate enough, you won't find it. Keep on seeking. Do not stop seeking until you find. When you find, you will become disturbed. You will be transformed. By the way, I feel for you, Be Happy. I feel for you. I've been there. So you can get out if you do what I suggest. You can be out of that misery. Samantha, question. When you feel you had lost your way, or feel like a fog is over your consciousness, when you feel like a fog is over your consciousness in relation to your soul desire. Are you asking a question? Do you know ways to help refocus on your path, or was that path the wrong? Okay, so you're overthinking it. It's real simple. Not easy, but it's very simple. In your fantasy land, if you don't have to make money and you don't have to do anything to please anything or anybody, the only thing that you're required to do is do whatever it is, no matter how ridiculous or impossible, that gives you joy. What is it that you want to do? If your answer is, I don't know, it means you're in conflict, and you keep asking the question until you keep seeking until you find. And the way you know you found it is that, it just gives you joy, the thought of it, even if you think it's impossible. And that's kind of a good sign. If you think it's impossible, or if you feel embarrassed by it, that's a good sign that you found what your soul desire is. And, I keep asking myself all the time what my soul desire is, so it's okay. But, don't think about it so much. The fog that's coming over your consciousness is your unconscious resistance. It means that if you get in touch with what you really want, you're going to have to get rid of something or somebody in your life, and you don't want to do that. You're afraid to do that. Even if it's just the idea of being a good person or being who you're supposed to be. There's some really deep stuff there. We all go through it. Let me tell you again what happens in life. You're born with an innate soul desire in your soul. The whole reason you're given that is so that your soul can achieve its highest desire, which will help it to grow. When you achieve your highest desire, you will help everything else rise to its next level of being. And you have put within that challenges. So, for instance, if you want to become a dancer and your father wants you to become a pharmacist, and if you don't become a pharmacist, your father is going to disown you and kick you out, and you live in a traditional society where if your dad kicks you out, you may not survive, and nobody will love you, and you might get stoned. I mean, some people's lives are on the line if they don't do what their dads tell them to do. Your soul desire, you say, I'd rather go be a dancer, even if that means that I live in a hut at the edge of the village and I get to dance by myself, I'm going to do that no matter what it takes. The fog comes in because your desires for survival are very real, and the desire to want to be accepted by your dad is a very real desire. And the fog is your unconscious mind saying, ah, da, da, da. Don't listen to the soul desire because you'll die, and I don't want you to die. It's trying to protect you. So you have to go after it with everything you have. Do not stop seeking until you find. All right. Life Ender, question. How are you feeling now that Jupiter's going direct? I don't know. You tell me. Mikamua, if you want to ask a question, please put question as your first word so I can see that you're asking a question. You're new to the channel probably. Welcome to the channel. That's what otherwise I may pass by your question because I try to avoid all of anything that's not a question. Mikamua, what is your opinion on near-death experiences of hell that are more than 100 of them on YouTube? It really panics me. Is it just their imagination or true? Just was afraid, so asked. Well, you say, what is my opinion on them? And then you tell me there's a bunch of them. My opinion is, so what? What is your opinion of people who take LSD and have a bad trip? Here's the thing that people need to also understand. Again, we live on planet Earth, which is the nexus point of all of the other dimensions, which means we are getting flooded with an intense amount of energy. It's very intense living here. But that intensity is what helps us to propel us to grow, to transcend, to go to the next level. So there are some people that are in fear and live in fear and continue to create fear. So, there are some spiritual traditions that say that when you die, you just see what's in your unconscious. So if somebody dies and sees hell, meaning not the actual underworld called hell, but a horrible place of punishment, it means that that state exists in their unconscious mind right now. And all that's happened is that has come into the forefront of their awareness. They've projected it. So if you want to avoid that, because you're asking me you're scared of it, if you want to avoid that, do what I'm telling you to do. Because the only way that people end up in conflict with themselves, as simple as it sounds, not easy to alleviate sometimes, but it's extremely simple, they are in conflict with their soul. They're trying to live in a way that protects them from whatever they think people are going to say or do, or they're trying to do the easy way out, or they're whatever it is. And their soul is wanting to do something else, and so they have rage at themselves. That's the source of all physical disease, the source of all mental and psychological illness. It's the source of all karmic illness. We've just brought it over from previous lives. It's just self-directed conflict. The way to become conscious of the self-directed conflict is to take action towards your soul desire. And this is the great thing about it, is that you don't have to figure out, you don't have to go through all this psychological mumbo jumbo of trying to figure out what your conflict is. You don't have to figure that out. All you have to figure out is what your soul desire is. When you go after your soul desire, you will become conscious of all of that, because it will all come to the surface, because all that stuff, all that conflict is designed to keep you away from your soul desire. And so it will all come to your awareness, which is why you don't have to feel good to go after your soul desire. Keep going after it no matter what comes up, because it's going to come up. The more fear you have, the more fear is going to come up. I'm sorry. I wish I could tell you otherwise. That's just the way it is. So that's the good news. You don't have to feel good going after your soul desire. In fact, if you feel horrible, that's a great sign. It's like if you've eaten bad fish and you're puking up the bad fish, at the moment you're puking it up, you want to stop puking. But you can't. You got to get all that poison out of you. And when you're done puking, then you go, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. But if you were to stop halfway through, you would feel really bad. So deal with it. When people die and they have unresolved desires, when they have unresolved soul desires, then they have all kinds of conflict and they have rage at themselves. They have rage at themselves on an unconscious level for not giving them their soul what they really wanted. And so they punish themselves. So somebody who sees a place of torment is somebody who's punishing themselves. So the answer to that is don't punish yourself. Be kind to yourself, be accepting of yourself, and then you won't create that. Okay? That's my answer to your question. Mika Mua, you're new to the channel. You didn't ask question again. How to deal with emotional blackmailers who use the help of cops all the time? I don't know. You've probably got some... Are you asking about yourself? Why are you dealing with emotional blackmailers? The only reason you have people like that in your life is because you've attracted them. Why have you attracted them? Because there's something underneath that that is far more painful and frightening for you. So you've attracted other people who will create all kinds of chaos in your outer life so you won't deal with what the real problem is. The answer is still the same. Go after your soul desire, fuck everybody else, and they'll leave you alone eventually. You may need some help. You may need to work with me or work with a counselor because you're blaming other people. You know, the thing about cops is that, you know, of course there are bad cops out there, but most of the time cops are doing their job. And so if the cops are all the time harassing you, then if I sit you down and I ask you some questions, I'm going to find out that you're doing stuff to get their attention. So you're not innocent. I don't believe that. I don't believe you're an innocent victim. In any case, even if you are an innocent victim, you've attracted that into your life because of your own internal conflict. But just based on that question, I would say you need counseling. Life Ender, question. From an astrologer's perspective, if you were looking to see what someone's soul desire might be, what would you focus on? I would focus on your Arutha Lagna, which means your reflection. You have your ascendant, which is your personality. Your ascendant is how you need to interact with the world based on karma. But that's not, and that's your experience of yourself. But that's not what people see. What people see is your reflection. Your reflection is how people want to see you. When you show up to life and promote your reflection, even if you don't relate to it, especially if you don't relate to it, then people will provide you with money, and they will provide you with jobs, and they will respond to you well. And the reason why I love the Aruda is because most people have some difficulty accepting some parts of their Aruda, and the parts that you don't like are the parts that you are egotistically sabotaging your own success. I am right now expressing myself as my Aruda. This backdrop here too. My Aruda is the shamanic teacher. Excuse me. My Aruda is the warrior shaman, the peaceful shaman, the warrior of shamanic balance. That is my Aruda. So I wear, in order to get the shamanic thing going, I wear these necklaces and I wear bracelets. I lift weights. I have sleeveless shirts. I have this weird looking thing behind me that kind of looks like the crazy, intense warrior thing. The beard, the shaved head. I'm direct. I don't put up with any bullshit. If I think you're bullshitting yourself, I tell you without any sugarcoating. That is my aruta. If I try and hide that, which I did for years, then people, even though I've tried in the past to promote this very sweet, sensitive artist type guy, what ends up happening is I look like a ninja. I end up looking like this warrior who's hiding. And then people don't trust me. They think I'm some crazy motherfucker. There were times in my life where I was hiding and struggling with this, and I'd walk down the street and people would just get out of my way. Just the whole block, I'm not kidding, the whole block would part and just let me walk through them. Because I was struggling with that. And they don't want to see you struggling with your reflection. So your soul desire, in my experience, is going to be, there's going to be a connection to your aruta. Okay? I'd have to look at your chart to know more. Kevin Lightsey, question. I have seen several messages. Where have you seen these messages? I have seen several messages that many have claimed to have channeled. I don't know what that means. You saw YouTube messages, you saw email. I don't know what that means. I have seen several messages that many have claimed to have channeled that seem to point towards a large event of some type. Well, all you have to do is go back 30 years, 40 years, even, back forever. There has always been somebody who has been channeling some major event. That's what channelers do. Because when people want to avoid their bullshit, they want to escape either into angels or gods or prophets or aliens, or there's going to be this pole shift, or there's going to be a solar minimum, or there's going to be a new ice age, and there's going to be this, and the fact is there's always something. There's always a disaster. We're having fires now. We do have a thing called global warming, which is completely transforming our ecosystem, and things are going to happen. So, all that, if you stop listening to that shit. Because at some point, somebody's bullshit prediction is going to line up with an actual eventual cataclysm. And then they can say, see? But even if they don't, what's interesting is that even when people make predictions of cataclysmic this and that and changes, and they don't happen, those same people will then come up with an excuse for why things changed and why it didn't happen the way it was supposed to. So, it makes me want to say, that why do you need to distract yourself with that? Stay here, stay right now, stay in your feelings, and well, I think you should do what I'm suggesting, but you can do whatever you want. I don't know about that. I have my feeling is that I do believe in the astrological idea that we're moving out of the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius. The age of Pisces was dominated by the elites versus the masses. The strongest point of the age of Pisces was in the Middle Ages. That was when you really had the elite had the castles and everybody else lived in the shit and literally ate their own shit. They would take their own feces and use it as fertilizer for the vegetables, and then they would take that vegetables that was covered in their own shit, and then they'd boil it so that it would sterilize it, and then that's why you always see them eating these bowls of slop, because that slop is the boiled vegetables that they had to boil to get all the the nasty bacteria out of it so they wouldn't make themselves sick. And now we're moving into the age of Aquarius, which is we're moving where the elites are going to be wiped out. And I would say this current government that we have and the current situation we have is the last gasp. So I'm really interested to see what happens after this. It's the last gasp of the elites controlling the masses. And the age of Aquarius is about the masses rising up and working together. So the age of Aquarius is the age of being completely self-empowered while at the same time being interdependent and cooperative with others. It is the time of the end of the gurus. And you can see this in me. I do not pretend to be anything other than a human being. I go out of my way to reveal to you all of my humanity so that you can relate to me and know that if you want what I have, that I'm no different than you. I'm probably worse. I can guarantee you I'm probably worse in at least a few ways, at least some of you. And this is the age of Aquarius where people will be their own teacher. And anybody who is a teacher is somebody who comes along and says, here's what I did, you go do it. That's the extent of it. Be Happy question, is the book you recommended to me earlier, The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life? Yes, that is it. Elliot Schieler question, how should an Aquarius Aruda Lugna present themselves to the world? Well, first off, I don't know. I don't know if I've looked at your chart, and I don't know if you're talking about Western or Vedic. So how do I know that you know that your Aruda Lugna is Aquarius? If you know for a fact that your Aruda Lugna is Aquarius, I have to know what house it's in. I have to know if there's any planets in there. So I don't have enough information. But I don't want to do a reading here. If you want a reading, go to astrology.thunderwizard.com and I'll be happy to look at your Aruda and tell you what I think. Life Ender question. So would you attribute your surfing obsession to Rahu then? I don't know. I don't really care. I don't know. Maybe. I don't care. All right. So Adi Baby Alligator Arianator, welcome to the channel. Please put question in front of whatever you have to say, in case it's a question. Otherwise, I don't respond to anything other than questions. All right, so that's it. No more questions. I'm going to take a break and come back, and maybe we'll bring this tale to an end for the evening. Okay, so what is the point of all of it? Again, if you are watching this live and you did not watch the beginning, wait until this becomes archived and go back and watch it from the beginning, because there's a story. Maybe I've channeled a history of the universe. Maybe I've channeled a new mythological teaching. It definitely has that kind of power. I was out in the ocean today swimming, and I was asking Mother Ocean to give me a message for you guys today. And from that came the story that I shared. And within that story, all of the answers to the questions about why am I here, why don't I remember who I am, what do I need to do, what's the point of it all, where is it all going, all of that is in that story, is in that myth. And if you can internalize that and allow it to stimulate you to take action, then I think you can achieve everything. I think it has that kind of power. So, as I said earlier, what is this here? So, this right here that you're looking at is a 9-world rune reading layout. The title of this video is suggests that the Earth is a nexus point, a power point, a vortex, where all of the other dimensions are focusing its energy. This is a place of dynamic transformation. And we live in a 9-fold universe. There are 9 dimensions to it, at the very least. Excuse me. And I think even string theory says that there's 9 dimensions. And we live in the center, which is Earth. So I'm saying you don't need to escape Earth. In fact, escaping Earth is only going to prolong your transformation. You want to stay here and you want to transcend and focus all of the intense power that is coming to you from all of the other 8 dimensions, including this one. And Mother Earth is the most powerful place in the universe to be. It's the most powerful place in the universe. We have not found any life, science anyway, has not found any life anywhere in the universe. In fact, I heard a really interesting theory from a physicist on television who said that the reason why that we haven't seen any life in the universe is that we're the first. Human beings are the first conscious beings to come and be able to create technology and blah, blah, blah. And it's going to take longer for the rest of the universe to evolve to a point where other life forms can come and evolve to where we are. So all of the desire to escape and connect to other beings, especially other space beings, and I'm not saying they do or don't exist, but I'm saying that your desire to make that more important than where you are now is a sign that you're wanting to escape who you are and escape where you are. And it's understandable because we have 8 other dimensions flooding our dimension with their energy, and this is an intense place to be. But it's the only place to be if you want to achieve infinite power. And that's why we're here. So, the 9-world rune reading is a way to take a snapshot of yourself to see where you're at. And for that, you go to runereadings.thunderwizard.com. Now, I am going to be creating a certification program for rune readings. And for that, you can send me an email at info@thundershamanism.com and put in the subject line rune certification. And I will email you when that certification program is ready. All right, let's see if there's any questions here towards the end. I don't. Mac has a question. Mac, what do you think of shape-shifting in connection to shamanic journey? What do I think of shape-shifting? I don't know that I care. Shamanic journeying, which would include shape-shifting, is all about giving you the power and giving you information to change things here. So I believe in it, but are you wanting to shapeshift because it sounds really cool and fun? If so, I'm saying that you're probably missing the point. If shapeshifting is a gift that you've been given because it helps you get more out of this earthly life, then by all means go do it. Otherwise, it's no more or less important or powerful than anything else. What else? Okay, that's it. No more questions. We're all done. So I think I've said everything I need to say for the time being. So that's it for me. I need to go eat some food. All right, my friends. Yeah, keep your eyes open, and I shall talk to you soon.